Okay, welcome all. So let us continue from our previous lecture. In last lecture, we discussed about the introductory part of database management systems, and we discussed about the purpose of DBMS. Today, we are going to continue with that one, and we are going to discuss about purpose of database systems, in which the main topic that comes under this one is file processing systems versus DBMS. Basically, from the exam point of view, it can come in that way. There are two three ways in which this question can be asked. Like one can be like your purpose, second can be like your advantages of DBMS, third one can be like disadvantages of file processing system, or disadvantages of same thing of DBMS. And fourth one, this is actually the fifth way, uh, file processing system versus DBMS. In this way, different types of questions can be asked from this topic that we are going to discuss today. Okay, so let us start with this one. So, purpose of database systems, why it came into existence, and why we are utilizing database systems. That is the main part. So, to understand the purpose of database systems, we have to go um, in the previous era where file processing systems, or currently also we utilize it for a purpose in operating systems. So basically, what is file processing system or a traditional system? It is basically a system where we organize different folders and we store our files in our operating system. In our Windows, when we work, we make different folders and we store our documents in the form of PDF, Word, in different ways, and we store them with some names. Yeah, everyone knows that. Everyone knows to do that. Nowadays, most of the people are utilizing computers, and as a technical student, you must be doing all these things to organize your project reports, or your lab manuals, or your notes, digital notes in your folders of the Windows operating system. Yeah, so that is called as file processing system. So what can be the problems in that kind of system? And that we have to understand first. Understanding disadvantages of file processing system will make us understand the purpose of database systems. Okay, so let us start from data redundancy and inconsistency. So how data redundancy will can be arised because of that. Okay, just give me 1 second. Yeah. So data redundancy and inconsistency. What is redundant data? Redundant data, if you know the basic meaning of redundancy, means you can say it as duplicate data. So if one thing is being done twice in a data, so it can create some inconsistencies. Like you have created one file in one drive and you stored it in one drive. Hmm. And the name of the file is AB. You have created the same file, you copied it, okay, control plus C, and you saved it in some another drive with some another name BC. Hmm, correct. So that file is same, but you stored it somewhere else with some another name. Yeah, content is same inside that file. Now suppose some another person comes and they update this file, because you told that another person that this particular file exists in some drive, D drive, you can say, okay, and this particular file resides in G drive. So in D drive, update happened, but same updates did not happen in G drive. So if Now third person comes and they want to now check the same data in the system. If they are checking this data, then there will be inconsistency in the data. This kind of problem can occur. Okay, and it can be resolved in DBMS through some commands. So that is the first thing. Second thing is difficulty in accessing the data. If your data is huge, obviously, so in this one we can understand it in that way. Suppose you have some data available with you, um like just let me clear it up first. Yeah, so let's see this one. Accessing the data. Suppose you have 25 GB data available with you. Hmm. 25 GB data available with you, out of which I want to search some 1 KB data. So what you have to do, you have to go and check in all the folders and drives of your file of your operating system, and you have to click on search. It will search all the data, and just for that 1 KB data you have to go through that 25 GB data. Okay. Sorry. Now, again, if you want to search something else, then again you have to cross check that 25 GB data again and again. So it becomes a tedious task. If your data is very large and you have to search all of this again and again, it is very difficult to go through it again and again. That becomes difficult. While in DBMS, this problem can be solved through just one command. We can search out the data required. Isolated data. If some data is stored just at one place, so to understand isolation we have to see certain things like isolation can be like if data is isolated just at one place. Okay, data isolation is required in DBMS for it comes under the properties of one of the main properties of database, which file processing system does not follow. So sometimes what happens, one data which is being changed at one place is not being changed at another place. That can also create some problems of isolation. Okay, we'll come on to this one in more detail in isolation. We'll come on to this one with more detail. Uh, Next one is integrity problem. So integrity means basically you can understand it in that way that there are some rules defined, and if you're not following up that rules, if some violations happens in that rules, then it is not a proper efficient correct data. Okay, in the meaning data should not be duplicate. Data should not be repeated at 2 or 3 times in different places. Similar data, it should be uniform. um, Normalized data should be there, normalized in the way whole data. There are different ways of normalization which are to be maintained. One of them can be if your data is in some one form at one place, and if you're transferring it to some another place, then the another place should also be compatible with that first place data, so that it can be utilized properly. So these are just one or two types of rules. um, References should be maintained properly in the data. That is also one of the main rules. Okay, so integrity are basically the rules and norms that are to be followed. And in file processing system, due to because it is a traditional system and things are to be handled manually sometimes, then it does not become possible. That's why integrity problems arises in file processing system. So that is the thing that we have to remember. Now, another one is atomicity. What is atomicity? Atomicity is basically either your work is done complete, all the steps of that work is done in a proper way, or nothing is done, either all or none. That is the meaning of atomicity. So basically, you can take an example in atomicity. Suppose if you are following some file processing systems, these kind of problems can occur. Like if there are three steps of some transaction, we got stuck on second step and it is not being completed. Okay, so if it will not being completed, then it may confuse the user whether this particular transaction is completed or not. Okay, so those kind of problems can also occur in file processing system. Concurrent access anomalies. Anomalies means again problems. Anomalies means problems. Concurrent access, if three or four users are accessing some data at a time, then some problems can occur. Suppose within a fraction of seconds, one person has updated some data. One update happened. One person has updated some data. And at the same time, second person is also accessing, but because it is just fraction of seconds update, second person did not get the update, and it will create some confusion. Okay, it will create some problems. So concurrent access problems can also occur in file processing system. Next one is security problems. Security problems ke at a time, if the authorization is given to multiple people, then privacy problems can occur in this one, that data becomes vulnerable. Okay, it can be taken away or it can be misused by some other people. So security problems. So we will discuss more about isolation with example later on. Anyhow, it will come gradually, you will understand it. But here the main things, I hope you got the idea. In file processing systems, what kind of problems can arise? Security problems that you have to remember for sure. Concurrent access problems that you have to remember for sure. Searching a large amount of data, searching a small data from the large set of data, that is a problem. Redundancy, duplicacy problem, inconsistency problem. These are some of the problems of file processing systems that can arise. By seeing those disadvantages, those problems in file processing systems, we can conclude with the advantages of DBMS. So how to control redundancy in DBMS? There are certain functions for that. Normalization can be utilized to control redundancy in data. Okay, no data should be repeated. Okay, so here we have to maintain some primary keys. Some of the keys in DBMS we have to maintain them to to maintain this, to control this redundancy, duplicacy in the data. Data sharing will be improved. To whom, what kind of data is to be shared. Authorizations will also be, more efficient, and through which data sharing will also be improved. Integrity of data will be maintained in DBMS because it will follow all the rules of normalization. So in normalization, what different types of things happen? Okay, in normalization, different types of things happen. Um, like atomicity again. All atomic values should be there, one at a time, no, not together, and all data will be maintained in a way that your redundancy will not occur. Okay, redundancy will be removed, so it will follow different rules of integrity. It will follow a very main rule of integrity, that is called as referential integrity. Please remember these terms for right now. Referential integrity, so it will come in very much detail further. Gradually you will understand these terms. So there is a term called as foreign key, which is maintained by databases which are required to maintain the relationship between the data. By following all these things, it will maintain integrity of the data. Security of data, if one person is given access to some data, another person is given access to some another data, so according to their to the requirements and the designations in the companies, in the organizations, the data is to be given access, which will help out to maintain the security. Consistency of the data will be maintained, tackling the problems of redundancy will help out to maintain consistency in data. Data access will be efficient. Okay, just with one command or one query, we can access whatever data is required, and it will give us. Okay, we can create different views also for the data access. Enforcement of standards, again it is relevant to the some rules and regulations of the DBMS, which will be maintained, without which DBMS will not work. So anyhow, you have to apply those standards and rules with the queries, with the tables, that will maintain the standards. This is very, very important term which has been asked a lot of time in the exams. Data independence. Data independence means which if at certain level I'm making some changes. Okay, like suppose each and every user will have some access to the data. If one user is at one level some changes are happening, then at another level it should not affect the complete database. That is called as data independence, which leads to the abstraction levels of the DBMS. Okay, which gives us the abstraction levels of the DBMS also. Like if I'm making some changes at the storage level of the database, then it should not affect the structure of the database. If I'm making some changes at the structure of the database, it should not affect the final application view of the database. That is called as data independence. Very, very important one. This one also very, very important. So these are some advantages of the database. What are the disadvantages of database? So in this one I will not take much time on this one, but very main disadvantages that you have to remember in DBMS is basically it becomes complex when it's because it supports multiple functionality to the user, and developers should have the thorough knowledge about the system. So when the data will increase, it becomes complex to handle. That becomes one of the disadvantage. Complexity, it uses large amount of memory to run the data efficiently. It needs large motor, and very important one is centralized system. It uses centralized system. Centralized system is only at a single place server is maintained. Okay, so all the users from wherever they are, they have the access to this database through one centralized system. If any failure happens to that server, then all data can be lost. Okay, so that is that can be a very big problem if it occurs. So in RDBMS we say, okay, the relational database where we generally usually works with structured data, it maintains distributed databases where data is not stored at just one place, it is being distributed at different places. So even failure happens at one place, then at second place we can get access to the data. So it is written on the entire systems. The database management system is written on the entire systems rather than the specific one. So it may run slow sometimes, depends on the application. These are some small disadvantages of DBMS. The very main to remember is it works on the centralized system. Please remember this one. So with this one, we will come on to the finalized summary of file processing system and DBMS. And the purpose of the database system must be clear to you at the end of this PPT. What are the major differences between this file processing system and DBMS? So that is data organization. Data will be stored in some flat files. Flat files means in the form of text or binary like notepad, like that. In those kind of files. Flat files are those files. Okay, like text documents in the form of documents, it will be stored. In management system, data will be stored in the form of tables, relational or some collections. No SQL, because DBMS maintains both structured or some collection type of data. Redundancy. So in file processing systems, redundancy can occur very easily. Duplication of data can occur very easily. Here it is designed to minimize redundancy through normalization and constants. We already discussed about these terms. And here in data access, searching and retrieval can be very inefficient if we are searching from a large amount of data. Here we can search through query languages and through indexing, which makes it very easy to search out. Next one is integrity. Few built-in constants must be applied, but they have to be managed manually. They must be managed manually, which becomes very complex. Okay. And here enforced constants will be there, which are required to be maintained. Okay. So that makes it more efficient. Then concurrency control. For handling concurrent data, some limited or very manually we have to see how to avoid this concurrent access. But in DBMS, by providing some of the mechanisms like locking Okay, it is a very good way to apply concurrency to control the concurrent access. Scalability, it may degrade with large amount of data comes, but it can handle some large amount of data, and it support scaling through different techniques. Here relationship between data can be managed manually, but here different relationship can be handled through some references, referential integrity, foreign keys, joins. These are different concepts, different ways, methods utilized to have a managed complex relationship. It is automated typically, and it is, it is not automated. Basically it is less, mostly it is manual only, we have to maintain, and it is basically automated. We can apply some of the rules in the starting itself, through which we can manage our database efficiently. Data management, it is limited to some basic operations, and here we can imbibe different queries in different forms with different methods, and we can handle our data in a more capable way. Data security often limited to file system permissions. If you have given permission to some people, but you should have knowledge about it, how to give the permissions to different drives and people, how to hide some files, but that again you have to go through it manually. है ना? And here some roles, authorizations and permissions are to be given to the people. Authorization is to be maintained, which makes it more efficient. So this is all about our file processing system and database management system. Without any further delay, let's wind up this topic here. We discussed it in very much detail. If you have any queries, if you have any questions, please comment to me, reach out to me through my email also. Have some good discussions. Thank you so much for watching my video. Please subscribe my channel. Thank you.